The Galactic Council chambers fell silent as Ambassador Krell's three eyes widened in genuine confusion. He leaned forward, his scales clicking against the polished stone table, trying to understand what the human representative had just said. "I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?" Krell asked, his translator crackling with static disbelief. Captain Marcus Flynn sat perfectly still, hands folded on the table, his face an unreadable mask. Around him, the representatives of 47 species shifted uncomfortably. They'd seen that expression before, days before entire star systems changed ownership. "I said," Flynn's voice was quiet, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "We're done asking nicely. Oh boy. Here we go. Let me back up, because you need to understand how we got here. See, for the past 73 cycles, humanity had been the galaxy's favorite punching bag. Need someone to haul toxic waste through contested space. Call the humans. Want a species to negotiate peace between two warring factions so you don't risk your own people. Humans will do it. Require a colony established on a death world that makes your skin melt. Well, Earth's already a death world, so sure, send the humans." And they did it. All of it. With a smile. Even Krell had found it fascinating. Honestly, these strange bipedal creatures with their bizarre sense of humor, their willingness to help anyone who asked, their seemingly infinite patience. He'd written 3 papers about human psychology. It's his favorite observation. Humans apologized when you stepped on their feet, actually said sorry when you hurt them. It was hilarious. Until it wasn't. "Captain Flynn." Krell's voice took on that patronizing tone he'd perfected over decades. "Surely you understand the Vaxon Accord requires us to surrender another 6 colonies for strategic repositioning." "Yes, I read it." Flynn's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Here's the thing, Krell. We're not doing that." The chamber erupted. 17 species started talking at once, translators screaming over each other. Krell's second stomach did an uncomfortable flip. Something was very, very wrong here. Ambassador Thryn of the Collective, a being composed entirely of crystallized thought patterns. Wait. No, not crystallized. Solidified thought patterns, leaned forward. "The humans are having another one of their emotional moments, clearly. Perhaps we should adjourn until—" "Sit down." 2 words. Just 2. But Flynn said them with such absolute authority that Thryn actually obeyed. That never happened. The Collective had been around for 6 million years. They'd seen species rise and fall like morning dew. They didn't take orders from anyone, let alone a species that had only achieved faster than light travel 300 years ago. Flynn stood, and I swear on my ancestor's egg sack, the temperature in the room dropped. "Let me tell you a story," he began, walking slowly around the circular table. 30 years ago we lost colony New Perth. You remember, Krell? The Zelkron wanted the system and the Council decided it was diplomatically prudent for us to relocate. We did. Packed up 17 million people, moved them halfway across the sector. Krell's scales started itching. He remembered. At the time it had seemed like such a reasonable solution. 20 years ago. The Vryn hegemony needed labor for their asteroid mining operations. Dangerous work, you know. Radiation, unstable gravity wells, that sort of thing. They asked the Council for volunteers. Flynn's voice was conversational, almost friendly. Want to guess which species the Council volunteered? Several representatives suddenly found the ceiling very interesting. 15 years ago, Flynn continued, his footsteps echoing in the now deathly quiet chamber. The Kix Consortium needed experimental subjects for their new medical treatments. Nothing dangerous, they said. Just testing. We sent them 12,000 volunteers. You know how many came back? Silence. 4,307. Flynn stopped walking. The rest, complications, they said. Unforeseen reactions. Oops, sorry. Our bad. Krell's translator was picking up something odd in Flynn's voice now. Was that? Laughter. No, not quite. Something darker. Something that made his survival instincts scream run. And through it all, Flynn spread his hands, that terrifying, almost smile never leaving his face. We smiled. We cooperated. We understood, because that's what good galactic citizens do, right? We played nice. He placed both hands on the table, leaning forward. But here's what you folks seem to have forgotten while you were busy treating us like your personal crisis management service. Flynn's eyes glittered with something that made Krell's blood run cold. We're from Earth. "Oh, ancestors preserve us, Earth," Flynn continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper, making everyone lean in to hear, "where the apex predator is a primate that invented nuclear weapons before it invented basic space travel. Where we turned wolves into pets and gave them ridiculous names like Mr. Fluffkins. Where our idea of recreation includes jumping out of perfectly functional aircraft for fun." Ambassador Urix of the Peaceful Communion tried to interrupt. "Captain Flynn, I think you're being overly abide. We're the species." Flynn talked right over her, his voice rising now, "that looked at the most hostile environments on our own planet and said, I wonder what it tastes like if we cook it. We eat things that would kill most of you. We drink literal poison for entertainment. Our children's bedtime stories are about talking predators who eat grandmothers." Krell felt his secondary heart beginning to race. Around the table, species who'd been in the galaxy for millennia were suddenly very aware of their own mortality. "So here's how this is going to work." Flynn straightened up, adjusting his uniform with deliberate care. "The Vaxon Accord, denied. The 6 colonies you want. In fact, we're taking back New Perth. We're taking back our people from the Vryn mines. And the Kicks, they're going to open their records to an independent investigation. Or we're going to open them ourselves." "You can't possibly," Krell started. "Can't." Flynn's eyebrows rose. "Ambassador Krell, in the 73 cycles since we joined this council, do you know what we've been doing besides playing nice?" The holographic display behind Flynn suddenly activated, showing star charts, ship deployments, industrial output statistics. Krell's 3 eyes tried to process all the information at once and failed miserably. "We've been building," Flynn said simply. "See, while you were assuming we'd always roll over and take it, we were constructing ships, training soldiers, researching weapons that make your current arsenal look like children's toys. We come from a world where we spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war against ourselves. Imagine what we can do when we're unified and angry." The chamber was so quiet you could hear Krell's scales clicking as he trembled. Flynn walked back to his seat, sat down and smiled. That warm, friendly, completely terrifying human smile. "So here's the new reality, friends. We're done being everyone's solution to every problem. We're done being expendable. We're done asking permission." He folded his hands again, looking perfectly calm. "From now on, humanity operates as a sovereign entity with full rights and protections. Or," he paused, letting the word hang in the air like a blade, "or you'll find out exactly what we're capable of when we're not playing nice anymore." Krell's translator made a sound it had never made before, something between a whimper and static feedback. "Questions?" Flynn asked cheerfully. Nobody spoke. Not one word. 47 species, some older than human recorded history, sat in stunned silence while a species they'd treated like galactic janitors calmly redrew every power structure in known space. And that's when Krell realized something that would keep him awake for cycles to come. They'd been so focused on how patient humans were, they never stopped to ask what happens when that patience runs out. The emergency session was called for exactly 14 hours after Flynn's little speech, which frankly was 13 hours longer than Krell expected anyone to wait. He shuffled into the council chambers looking like he hadn't slept, because he hadn't. None of them had. How could they? The humans had just casually threatened the entire galactic order over breakfast. Ambassador Thryn was already there, their thought form flickering nervously. "This is unprecedented. Absolutely unprecedented. In 6 million years. Yeah. 6 million years, we get it," snapped General Vortex of the Kryn Empire, his mandibles clicking with irritation. "What we need is a plan. The humans can't just Can't what?" asked Chancellor Mira of the Syndicate Worlds, sounding tired. "Can't refuse to be exploited anymore. Can't demand basic respect. Please, do continue explaining what they can't do." Vortex's scales flushed purple. "You're defending them." "I'm being realistic," Mira shot back. "I spent last night reviewing their industrial output. Do you have any idea how many shipyards they've built in the past 20 years? They've got 17 Dreadnought-class vessels under construction that we didn't even know about." Krell felt his stomach lurch. 17. How had their intelligence missed that? Oh, right. Because they'd been too busy assuming humans were harmless. The doors hissed open, and Captain Flynn walked in, looking annoyingly well-rested and holding what appeared to be a cup of that toxic beverage humans called coffee. He took a sip, smiled pleasantly, and sat down.
Good morning, everyone. Lovely day, isn't it?
The silence was deafening. Flynn waited, still smiling, apparently happy to sit there drinking poison water while the most powerful beings in the galaxy struggled to form words. Finally, Krell cleared his throat. Captain Flynn, the Council has concerns about yesterday's statements. I bet you do, Flynn said cheerfully. Let's hear them. Vortex slammed 3 of his 6 appendages on the table. You threaten the entire Council. You can't simply demand, General, I'm going to stop you right there. Flynn set down his cup with a soft click. I didn't threaten anyone. I stated facts. There's a difference. You spoke of weapons of war. Did I? Sears, Flynn tilted his head, looking genuinely curious. I spoke of capabilities, self-defense, the natural result of being treated as expendable for 73 cycles. He leaned back in his chair. But hey, if you want to interpret, we're not going to let you walk all over us anymore as a threat. That says more about your intentions than mine. Thrin's form solidified into something vaguely humanoid, which meant they were seriously stressed. Captain, you must understand the position this puts us in. The Vaxon Accord was carefully negotiated, behind closed doors without human representation, deciding the fate of human colonies. Flynn interrupted. Yeah, super careful. Really felt the love there. Krell tried a different approach. Perhaps we were hasty in our assumptions about human cooperation. But surely we can reach a compromise. Oh, we're way past compromises, Krell. Flynn's smile never wavered, which somehow made it worse. See, compromise implies both sides giving something up. What exactly have you been giving up these past 7 decades? Because from where I'm sitting, it's been pretty one-sided. Chancellor Mara spoke up, her voice measured. What do you want, Captain? Finally, someone asking the right question. Flynn pulled out a datapad and slid it across the table. Full sovereignty recognition, immediate return of New Perth and 3 other colonies that were diplomatically relocated, complete records from the Kix medical experiments, reparations for the families of the 8,000 people who didn't come back, formal apology from the Vryn hegemony, and improved working conditions for all current miners, not just humans, and Pib, on Ben, he paused for effect, a permanent seat on the council with full voting rights. The chamber exploded. Impossible. Outrageous. They've been here less than a century. Flynn just sat there sipping his coffee, waiting for the noise to die down. When it did, his expression had shifted. The friendly mask was gone, replaced by something colder, harder. Here's the thing you still don't get, he said softly. I don't care if you think it's impossible. I don't care about your traditions or your protocols or how things have always been done, because you know what we learned in those 73 cycles of being your errand boys. He stood up, and Krell noticed that 24 humans had quietly entered the chamber, lining the walls. When had they arrived? How had security not noticed? Oh, ancestors. They'd already infiltrated the building. We learned exactly how this council operates, Flynn continued. Every weakness, every back-channel deal, every species that resents every other species. You're not some unified galactic government, you're a barely functional alliance held together by mutual fear and economic necessity. Vortex started to speak, but Flynn held up a hand. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to accept every single demand on that list. Not because you want to, not because it's fair, but because the alternative is watching the most dangerous species in the galaxy stop playing by your rules. You'd start a war? Flynn asked, their voice genuinely horrified. Flynn laughed. Actually laughed. War? No, no, no. See, that's where you keep misunderstanding humans. We don't want war. War is messy, expensive, bad for everyone. His smile returned, sharp as a blade. But we're very, very good at it. And we've had 73 cycles to study every single species in this council. Your biology, your tactics, your weaknesses. He started walking around the table again, and Krell noticed everyone tracking his movement like prey watching a predator. The Kryn Empire, impressive military, sure. But your entire tactical doctrine relies on overwhelming force in frontal assaults. Predictable. The collective, 6 million years of experience. But you haven't fought a real war in 2 million years. You've forgotten how. Flynn stopped behind Mara's chair. The Syndicate worlds, economically powerful, militarily irrelevant. And the cooks, please. Your entire species would fall apart if we stopped selling you the medications you need to survive in standard oxygen environments. Each species he mentioned seemed to shrink in their seats. But again, Flynn said, returning to his spot, we don't want war, we just want what every species deserves. Respect, autonomy, and the right to not be treated like expendable assets. Krell found his voice, though it came out as more of a croak. And if we refuse, Flynn's expression went completely blank. Then tomorrow morning every human colony declares independence. Every human serving in joint military operations goes home. Every human scientist working on collaborative projects packs their research. Every trade agreement, every mutual defense pact, every carefully balanced diplomatic arrangement that depends on human participation. He snapped his fingers. Gone. You're bluffing, Vortex said. But he sounded uncertain. Am I? Flynn pulled up another holographic display. This is the Terran Independence Declaration, already written, already approved by Earth's government, already transmitted to every human colony and ship. I have the authority to make it official with one command. The display showed billions of human signatures, a document ready to activate. Imagine the chaos, Flynn said conversationally. 23% of the Council's military personnel suddenly unavailable. 37% of deep space hauling capacity gone. 42% of hazardous environment specialists. Poof. Not to mention the 300,000 humans currently operating critical infrastructure throughout Council space. Mira was rapidly calculating on her own pad, her face growing paler by the second. We wouldn't sabotage anything, of course. Flynn continued. We just leave. Let you figure it out yourselves. I'm sure it'll be fine. After all, you managed before we showed up, right? Krell's mind was racing. The economic disruption alone would be catastrophic. Half the sector's logistics depended on human willingness to operate in environments that killed other species. And if they left suddenly, this is extortion, Flynn said weakly. No, Flynn corrected, his voice gentle again. This is negotiation. You've just never been on this side of it before. He finished his coffee, set down the cup. So we can do this the easy way. You accept our terms. We continue working together, everyone prospers. Or we can do it the hard way, and you spend the next decade trying to rebuild everything we currently maintain for you. The council members looked at each other, decades of assumed superiority crumbling like sand castles in a tide. Chancellor Mira spoke first, her voice resigned. The syndicate worlds will support the human proposals. One by one, species who'd treated humans as convenient tools for nearly a century voted to recognize them as equals. When it was over, Flynn stood, nodded politely, and headed for the door. Just before leaving, he turned back. Oh, one more thing. That colony New Perth. We're taking it back next week, whether you officially return it or not. Just thought you should know, scheduling purposes and all. The door closed behind him. Chris sat in stunned silence, processing what had just happened. 73 cycles. 73 cycles of underestimating them, exploiting them, assuming their patience was weakness. And in one day, one human with a coffee cup and a smile had reminded the entire galaxy of a simple truth. Never mistake kindness for weakness, because eventually even the most patient species runs out of patience, and when that species comes from Earth, you really don't want to be around when it happens. 3 cycles later, Krell would watch human ships arrive at New Perth to a cheering crowd of colonists who'd never stopped considering it home. The council had agreed to everything. Every single thing. They didn't have a choice. The humans had finally stopped asking nicely, and the galaxy would never be the same.